Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Sacred Femme Alchemy Podcast episode for the Shakti Soul Sessions. And today I am going to talk about the cycle or that feeling of being stuck in a cycle of bad relationships. I hear this all the time when I'm working with different clients, and this is something that I used to say myself, and it was something that I was working on for, I think mid-20s to early 30s, so almost a decade of really working on it. And this topic, it was inspired by just old feelings coming up around family. And it inspired me to think about just how our feelings with our family run so deep. And just when we think that we have actually healed them, there comes an opportunity when we get to heal them even more. And sometimes when you think you've done so much work that you're just passing all these tests and you're feeling so good, and then you just get kind of slapped with a lesson that comes back, and it feels like this ghost from your younger self, and you're like, really? I thought we worked on that. And the feeling that comes up oftentimes is, and it's always rooted in our relationship to our parents. And this is what I find also when working with different clients. And this is a direct expression of our decision to choose certain partners that feel comfortable to us. And so when I used to say myself was, I feel stuck in a cycle of bad relationships, I couldn't necessarily have the awareness to understand the dynamic that was at play. And for me, I am someone that, for my defense mechanisms and just having my own upbringing, I really learned to be in relationships where I had to prove myself, where I had to earn love, where if I was a good little girl, I would get accolades. If I would do what other people would tell me to do, I would get accolades. And I would be loved and I'd be accepted. And I thought, okay, if I can just do everything and anything that people told me to do, if I can just be perfect, then I'm going to be loved. I'm not going to be a disappointment. People are going to be proud of me. They're going to make me feel so good. And I'm just going to be loved unconditionally for who they think I should be. And what happens is it just showed up, especially in my romantic relationships. And so the way that it showed up was me being in relationships, just thinking and looking for clues of the type of woman men wanted to be with. And so I would be that. And then all of a sudden I would date them. And I think it was just this game that I was playing, right? This subconscious game of, okay, let me get you to the point where you unconditionally love me. And in romantic relationships, that's a form of committing to me, right? And once I do that, then I can let my hair down. I can explore the opportunity to see where this relationship can go. And oftentimes what would happen is I would find myself in situations where they would like someone that just was not me. And I had to play the game of being who they wanted, or it just felt very fake and disingenuous. I just wasn't very authentic in my relationships. I would often hide. I wouldn't share or express more of myself because, you're often taught from all these horrible dating books just to be mysterious and not share too much, because then that means maybe you're overemphasizing on intimacy so that they don't leave. Or, men love to chase. It's that primal instinct within them that allows them to chase for the prey. And it was just, I was filled with a lot of information, and I was filled with my own conditioning with my relationship to my parents. And so I found myself just in a loop of these relationships where I would play a part as if I was an actor, be who you want me to be. And I'm a 5-1 generator. So, the fives, we have a lot of projections on us. It's like we can either be the savior or the villain, the temptress, like all of these things. And And for me, it's just, I was really good at playing that game. I was really good at hiding who I was. I was really good at being a chameleon. I'm really good at being flexible in different environments and just kind of quote unquote being chill and going with the flow. I mean, that's exactly the type of compliment I got even working in corporate, because there's so much change. There's so much organizational change. And when you're working in tech, especially when you have different bosses all the time, every single quarter, you have to just roll with the punches and you just have to put your head down and do the work. And so I was really good at that. And I remember in another position that I was in, I just had no self-expression. I was just pretty neutral. And I remember one time the manager said, I wasn't really sure if you're going to be excited about your promotion or not because you don't really show yourself. And that really, really hit me. It hit me so deep. It felt like a gut punch. And it made me think about, why am I so afraid to be who I am in relationships, especially romantic relationships? And, obviously it showed its ugly head in corporate environments. And it showed up as me not having a sense of self. It showed up as me not having a backbone. It showed up as me allowing other people to have the power to decide whether our relationship was going to start or end. And that left me very, very disempowered. It left me thinking that, oh my gosh, I can't change this pattern of just having these horrible relationships in my life where I feel like I can't be myself. And I didn't know that I had the power to change that narrative. I didn't know that I could change that story or that belief that I was powerless and I played the victim. Because the thing is, I was really scared of showing you who I was because I was afraid that I was going to disappoint you. I was afraid that you weren't going to love me. I was afraid that you weren't going to like me. And then that led to people pleasing. So it's like this horrible cycle of all these different things of being the dutiful daughter, the good little girl, the good little employee, the good little girlfriend, just so I can get you to love me. But the thing is, that's not even rooted in authentic love because it's not even me who I'm actually being in the relationship. And it's manipulation and it's fraudulent. And so what I really had to do was just find little ways to voice. That's why I work a lot with clients when we say, okay, like, how are we going to set boundaries? How are we going to say the things that we ultimately want to say, even though it might mean that we will disappoint someone? Can we stand with ourselves disappointing another person rather than disappointing ourselves? And that's what kept me in this codependent loop of your opinion matters more than mine. I value what you think more than I value what I think. And when I'm put in a position where I value other people more than myself, that means I don't love who I am. And it doesn't give me the permission to show up in a way that allows others to love the true me. And so I'm always going to be stuck in this cycle of having you validate me, having you tell me whether I'm good enough. And it's hard, often mothering yourself. It is hard being the inner mother all the time because we just want to sit and be loved unconditionally for who we are. And the thing is, I don't think that's actually true. I don't think another human being can love another human being without conditions. Think about, people you take your partner, for example, if you're in a relationship, you disagree, right? But it's like, how can we learn to love them, but not like them in that moment? And sometimes we want our children to behave a certain way. And if they don't, we get really upset. Or our bosses, if they don't give us promotions, we get really upset and we threaten to leave. Or, our partners, we threaten to leave. They don't act a certain way. And so how can we ask of others to love us unconditionally when we can't do it for ourselves? Because when we learn to do it for ourselves, that's when we start to break the patterns of who we attract. And when we have a spiritual relationship, that's when we start to realize, okay, I don't need another person to love me unconditionally, because one, I personally think that's not true. You just can't. I mean, you can, right? I'm thinking about it in real time. I'm like, can you? And I'm thinking about my partner. I'm like, does he love me unconditionally? TBD, right? TBD. You know, it's like in marriage, death do us part. And sometimes I think that's why I have gravitated more and more deeper into my spiritual relationship with myself, with the goddess, with source, with Shakti. Because I'm learning that through invoking the cosmic mother, I can invoke my inner mother. And I learn how to be that example. And I learn to allow my inner self to have this sacred space to just be who she is without condition. And I admit, like I said, it is hard to constantly have to take care of yourself, to constantly have to be the mother. But the thing is, when we learn to let our blood parents, our birth parents, off the hook, because I know for myself, sometimes I want them to show up in a way that's not part of their blueprint. And when I think that they're going to show up in a way that they normally wouldn't, it again keeps me stuck in relationships where I'm involved with people where I want them to show up and be a different way that they're not. So it's like if you're in a toxic relationship right now and you're going back and forth, constantly breaking up, making up, breaking up, making up, breaking up, making up, like, you know, what season are we in? It's because we want them to show up in a way that they can't. And so when are we going to stop proving to ourselves that if they show up a different way, it means they love me? How can you show up for yourself in a way that already means you love yourself? Doesn't mean to extricate yourself from the situation. What would a loving decision be for you? And that's for you to decide. That's for you to, get out your journal and really think about, what is the loving decision that I can do for myself to break the cycle of bad relationships? How can I not inherit the dynamics with my parents with future romantic relationships? And what is that cycle you're in? Look at it. And this is something that we dive into in my one-on-one coaching. This is where we get to go really, really deep and see how our dynamics play out so that we can actually call in those healthy, those loving, those soul nourishing, those aligned next level relationships for us. Because we have the power to change our dynamics. We have the power of awareness to see what's keeping us small. Where are we giving our power away to other people to choose us, to validate us? And so I'd love to support you in a beautiful container. I will leave the link to book a call with me so that when we work together, you can be in a relationship where you feel seen, adored, and so cherished. And that it is possible for you. And if you don't think it's possible right now, I'm holding that vision for you. All right, loves, have a beautiful day. Sat Nam.